people think about moving to a new state, they usually focus on the exciting stuff, right? You know, finding a new house, decorating, exploring a new city, and starting a new chapter. But after moving pretty much every year for the last 8 years all around the world, and then eventually now settling here in Texas, I've learned that the actual move is only half the battle. The other half is all of the little administrative tasks that nobody really talks about. Things like changing your driver's license, updating your car registration, forwarding your mail, and remembering which accounts still have your old address linked to them. And trust me, there are way more things to update than you think. When we moved, I was convinced that I had everything covered, and then months later I was still discovering accounts, memberships, subscriptions, all of those things that were tied to our old addresses. So if you are planning a move to a new state, or you've recently moved and you're now wondering what you are forgetting, this video is for you. I'm gonna walk you through the complete moving checklist I wish someone had given me. Let's start with what you should do before you actually move. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting until they're already unpacking boxes to start thinking about logistics. The earlier you start, the easier the transition will be. First, create a moving budget. Moving expenses have a way of multiplying quickly. There are obvious costs like movers, truck rentals, deposits, travel expenses, but there are also plenty of hidden costs. You may need new furniture, storage units, utility deposits, hotel stays during the transition. Having a realistic budget ahead of time can prevent so much stress later. Another thing you'll want to do before actually moving is set up mail forwarding through the postal service. This is one of those tasks that seems really simple, but it can save you a lot of headache. Even if you think you've updated every account, something will inevitably get sent to your old address. So mail forwarding just is like a safety net, and just make sure that you are 100% updated. Before moving, it's also a good idea to gather important documents all in one place. Things like birth certificates, passports, social security cards, marriage certificates, vehicle titles, insurance documents, medical records, all of that fun stuff. It should be easy to access in one general place. The last thing you want when you're going through everything is digging through boxes trying to find paperwork when the DMV asks for it. And speaking of the DMV, once you've arrived in your new state, one of the first things you'll want to do is get a new driver's license. Obviously, every state has different requirements and deadlines for how quickly a new resident must get a new license. Some states give you a few weeks, some give you a few months, but either way, don't put it off, because DMV appointments can book up quickly, and you'll usually need proof of residency, identification, and so many other documents. Getting your new license also does establish residency for many other purposes of things you need to do once you move. So along with your driver's license, you also need to do a new vehicle registration. So if you brought your car with you, you'll likely need to register it in your new state and get new license plates. Depending on where you move, this process may include inspections, emission testing, title transfers, additional fees, all that fun stuff. So make sure you understand the requirements ahead of time so there aren't any surprises when you're at the DMV. And now that you're dealing with your vehicle, don't forget car insurance. Insurance rates can vary dramatically from one state to the other. Even if you're staying with the same insurance company or the same policy, your premium will probably change based on your new location. So updating your address ensures your coverage remains valid and prevents potential issues if you ever need to file a claim. Next comes one of the most important ones, but usually it's an overlooked task: updating your new address everywhere, right? And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Start with your bank accounts, your credit cards, move on to investment accounts, retirement accounts, health saving accounts, PayPal, Venmo, any other financial institutions that you use. Many people remember, obviously your main credit card or your main checking account, but they kind of forget about their old credit card, their brokerage account. They really use all of those types of things. If you are keeping your same remote job, you'll also want to update your address with your employer. Of course, this affects your payroll, your tax documents, your benefits information, and other important communications as well. Since different states have different tax rules, your company will probably have to update the state tax withholding information as well. You really don't want to forget this and create complications later when you're actually trying to file your taxes. And speaking of taxes, it is worth taking some time to understand how your new state handles income taxes, property taxes, vehicle taxes. Some states have no state income tax, but they make up for it in other ways. Others have lower property taxes but higher income taxes. Understanding these differences can really help you budget more accurately and avoid surprises. Now let's talk about healthcare, because this is one area that people usually forget until they need it. Before moving, you want to research doctors, dentists, pediatricians, specialists, and pharmacies in your area. If you have children, finding a pediatrician should be near the top of your list. You do not want to be searching for a doctor when your daughter or your son is already sick. Request medical records if you need them. Make sure that your insurance network includes providers in your new location. Otherwise, obviously, you're going to have to switch insurances altogether, which is what we had to do when we moved to Texas. If you have pets, there are also several updates you're going to need to make as well. You're going to transfer veterinarian records, just like I talked about with transferring your medical records for yourself and for your dependents. You also want to update your pet's microchip registration information if that applies to you. Find an emergency animal hospital nearby. Understand any local licensing requirements. So these tasks may only take a few minutes, but they can be super important if something unexpectedly happens and now you're trying to rush and do it instantly. Now, one category that catches almost everyone off guard is subscriptions and memberships. Think about all the services that you use throughout the year: Amazon, Costco, Sam's Club, gym memberships, streaming services, airline loyalty programs, hotel reward accounts, TSA PreCheck, Clear, magazine subscriptions, meal delivery services, so many others that have your old address attached to them. So I highly recommend making a full list of all the subscriptions you apply for, all the subscriptions you already use. Go through them one by one and just make sure you change them all so you don't forget any. Now let's move on to the household setup. One of the first things that many homeowners do after moving into a new house is change the locks. You never know how many copies of that current key already exist from previous owners, contractors, neighbors, family members, whatever. Replacing those locks is relatively inexpensive and it gives you immediate peace of mind in your new home. You'll also want to find important household systems. Figure out where the water shutoff valve is, find the electrical panel, test smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, change the HVAC filters, learn where important maintenance items are located before you need them in an emergency. These are very simple tasks that can save you some valuable time later. Another practical setup is setting up utilities if you haven't already. Electricity, water, gas, trash collection, internet service, and sewer services probably all operate differently than they did in your previous state. Some areas offer multiple utility providers while others have just one single provider that you have to use. So take some time to really understand your options, compare plans when available, and if you can set it up beforehand, which is what we did when we moved to Texas, it makes your life so much easier because the day that we arrived, our electricity and everything was already set up, and then I already had an internet appointment scheduled for the next day. So everything just like felt like home right away because it was all set up. Another thing that also made us feel settled much faster was learning the local area. Within the first few weeks, you really want to find your nearest grocery store, pharmacy, urgent care center, hospital, library, gas station, favorite coffee shop. Trust me, as someone who has literally moved so much her adult life, familiarity creates comfort, and these small discoveries can start making a new place feel very much like home a lot sooner. For families with children, there are a few other things to consider: transferring school records if needed, update emergency contact information, register for local activities, sports programs, libraries, community events, join local parenting groups online. Some of the best recommendations for doctors, childcare providers, family activities come from other parents, right? So they already live in the area, they know what they're talking about, so you might want to trust them versus just a Google search, which is exactly what we did, right? Like right when we got here, I had one friend here who was able to share a lot with me, but I also registered her for some activities, and because I registered for those activities, now I've met so many moms and they give me so many recommendations on, you know, doctors, even local things to do, things like that. So I felt like that was so important on actually feeling settled in here, just having that community of people who you can trust and give you those local recommendations since you don't really know anything about the area. Now, if you have moved to a completely different region of the country than you're used to, you do want to take some time to learn about local weather patterns and seasonal risks. For example, someone moving from California to Texas may need to learn about severe thunderstorms, hail, tornado preparedness. Someone moving from Florida to Colorado won't be used to living life in the snow. So just understanding local weather helps you just prepare your home, your car, emergency plans, all that kind of stuff appropriately. And one of the most completely forgotten tasks is voter registration. If you want to vote in local, state, and national elections, make sure you register in your new state according to local requirements. Some states automatically update registration when you get your new driver's license, which is awesome, but some it's a completely separate thing. So you do want to look into that and make sure that you do that. Now let's talk about some of the things that almost nobody mentions. Updating your online shopping accounts. This sounds super obvious, but so many people have multiple saved addresses and accidentally ship packages to old homes because that was just the default setting. You know, even months after moving, you want to check your Amazon, Target, Walmart, Etsy, eBay, any other online shops that you frequently buy from. Another commonly forgotten item item is toll road accounts. That's especially important here in Texas. If you've moved to an area with toll roads, you'll want to set up a local toll account and potentially close out accounts from your previous state if that applies to you. This can save money and prevent so many surprises later, because that's exactly what happened to us. We thought that we were checking the tolls and just making sure that we were paying as we go until we got our new license plate, and then we were going to set up an account. But we didn't know that each toll road was owned by a different company and each had their own thing. So the one website that we were paying the tolls on didn't cover all of the tolls. So we were getting bills sent to California and then we didn't pay them. So then you get a fee, and it just started, creating a bunch of chaos. So as soon as you get there, just register it with your old license plate, and once you get your new license plate, you can update it, which is what we should have done. Now, if you are going to be a homeowner in your new state, you want to research local tax exemptions that may be available. For example, many states offer homestead exemptions that can reduce your property tax burden. These benefits usually require filling out paperwork, so it is worth investigating shortly after you buy a home or right before you buy a home, just so you understand how it works. And as you settle into your new community, make an effort to get involved locally. Explore parks, farmers markets, festivals, restaurants, community events. One of the fastest ways to feel at home is by building routines. Find your favorite walking trail, your favorite coffee shop, breakfast spot, weekend activity. These routines gradually transform a place from just somewhere you live into somewhere that actually feels like home, trust me. Looking back, moving to a new state can feel very overwhelming because there are just so many moving pieces, but the good news is that you don't need to do everything in one day. The key is just having a checklist, working through it systematically. Start with the legal requirements like your driver's license, your vehicle registration, insurance, and address changes. Then you can slowly move on to healthcare, memberships, utilities, and community connections. Every item you check off brings you one step closer to feeling fully settled in your new home. To make this even easier, I have put together a fully detailed moving checklist that you can download for free. Just click the link in the description and follow along as you make your move. And if I could leave you with one piece of advice, it's this: make a master list. Do not trust your memory. Every time you randomly remember an account membership, a subscription, a task, write it down immediately. The biggest mistakes people make aren't usually the major items, they're just the dozen of small little details that kind of just slip through the cracks. A simple checklist can just save you so much time, money, and stress. So if you are planning on moving soon, I hope this video helps make your process a little bit easier. And if you've moved recently, let me know in the comments what was one thing that you forgot to update after moving. I'd love to hear the things that caught you by surprise, because chances are they will help someone else who is watching this video and getting ready for their own move. So now let's take a look at the reverse culture shocks I had moving back to the US after living abroad for 8 years.